The first point is about the interface design, and the meet specifications criterion for it basically reads is all application components render on screen in a responsive manner, usable across a modern desktop, tablet, and phone browsers. You want to make sure that things look good.
Especially because you have several different components inside one application. You're going to be having a Google Maps that's going to show your markers, and then you have a list view of the same places that are shown in markers, as well as a search bar or whatever that you integrate inside your map, which is going to filter that list view as well as the markers. So make sure that all these components together render in a very responsive manner and usable manner, in the sense that we don't want your list view to completely populate your mobile browser and not be able to view your map. It can be a toggle element that you can sort of minimize and maximize the way you want it to, or you can make it responsive and very relative to the screen size.
Since we're talking about interface design, one thing that I definitely want to say is start with a mobile first design, and we say that because it's so much easier to design, take something and make it bigger instead of taking something big and make it small. And the next one is about app architecture, which says code is properly separated based upon Knockout's best practices, following an MVVM pattern, avoiding updating the DOM manually, using observables rather than forcing refreshes manually, etc. So this goes to Knockout, and the JavaScript design pattern course is going to help a lot over here.
Sure.
Now,
we can talk a little bit about the model view model architecture in general, because that might be a little complicated to understand in the beginning and how to integrate it in your code.
So the model view model splits your UI code into three parts: the model, the view, and the view model. Now, these names are kind of self-explanatory. The model basically is going to have all your data. It can be data related to your place, the name of the place, where it is located, what type of food. I think about food. Does it serve? Anything that has got any information is going to go in your data.
And this data can be written hard-coded by yourself when you're starting to build the application. So if you're overwhelmed by, hey, how do I actually put in this JSON, get a JSON array from a third-party API and send it to render it in map markers and so on. If you're overwhelmed, take one place or two places, hard-code it into a JSON object. You guys know how to create JSON objects from Project 2. So I'm sure you'll know how to do it. Just put in two places and try to put in these places inside your map markers. So your JSON object is essentially what the model
will be. Now the view, this really is basically what you view. It's the visual representation of what you see of your data. So in case of a place, you're going to see a marker. So anything that can be seen goes in your view. And then the model view, or the view model, is the messenger between your data or the model and your view, which is your visual information. So any data or all the data is taken by this model view, processed, and then given to the view to display it and render it on the screen.
I know that a lot of people would know it as the model view controller. But we call it the model view model pattern for Knockout, and that's how Knockout is built upon. A little more details on it with respect to Knockout would be that Knockout essentially handles the view model part of things, in the sense that it has a very nice property of data bindings, where you can actually observe your DOM elements inside your view model to make changes to it. Let's say that you have a list element coded up in your HTML. So you have a DOM element that's made up of a list, and you don't know how many list items go into that list. Everything is going to be based upon what you're going to retrieve from an API and then send it to the front end. So how do I know if the list contains 10 elements or 5 or just 1? So what you can do is you can add a data bind property to your list element. And this can be accessed inside your JavaScript by calling the ko.observable function. So what that is going to do is anytime, so you give an ID inside your data bind. So whenever you call that ko.observable with the ID passed into it as whatever element, DOM element you're getting from the HTML, it's going to, track that element immediately. And, it can make changes to that element. You can add more data into it. You can retrieve what the current data is inside that list element. So it's basically to update the DOM and retrieve data from the DOM. And so what you will be essentially working on is the view model portion necessarily. And I know that model is going to be just a simple data, object, JSON object that you either
at least to start out.
Yeah, to start out with. So it's always going to be something that you code, or you will be getting an array or JSON object from your third-party API. So yeah, that's how Knockout works, and that's what you should basically keep in mind.
The next part is the asynchronous data usage, and this is where we see a lot of project not meet specifications on their first time around, and we can talk a little bit in depth about it.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you're using Google Maps API. That is the basic requirement.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're using at least one third-party data API, and to make sure Places, Google Places, and Google Street View do not fall under this. Both of these APIs are actually a part of Google Maps.
Yeah, they're like a library under Google Maps API. So it's great if you integrate it, but we would want another third-party API apart from the Google ones.
Yeah, and there are some interesting ones that we have seen. A lot of people use the usual Yelp and Instagram and
Wikipedia, Foursquare, Flickr.
So you can use any third-party API as long as it has documentation that we can read and understand.
Yeah. Also that some of these third-party APIs might have a lot of OAuth stuff to do, like authentication and authorization. Like I know that a lot of people have tried using YouTube API, and the YouTube API definitely needs an OAuth, and you have tutorials for it in the Google developers website. So if you guys would ask me, how do I learn these third-party APIs? Just go to their own documentation. Like Yelp has a developers page where they talk about their search API and other APIs that you can take, and sort of like the attributes that you need to query them using to get places and restaurants or with a particular location or so on. So definitely, if you want to get started with an API that you have no experience with, what I would do is to go read their developer documentation and then find tutorials, good, trustworthy tutorials around it. A very important point is whenever you're using a third-party API, you need to enable cross-origin resource sharing for some of these APIs. So make sure that, so that your app is actually able to access other APIs, data from other APIs. So definitely go and look into enablecourse.org to make sure that, you don't have to handle any additional, condition in using those APIs. So please do read documentation.
I think the next big part of this is the whole asynchronous, all data requests are retrieved in an asynchronous manner. And I think this part is done with the model view model part, but where a lot of students stumble is in the event of a failed data retrieval, errors are handled gracefully. And we do explain what error handling gracefully, what we mean by that. When an API cannot load its data,
That's right.
You either want to pop up an error message that says, hey, sorry, not working, come back later, or you want to have a project or your UI should not get affected by data retrieval. So an easy way to check what happens when you block a certain API is to go and play around with your hosts files.
Yeah. There are two main methods to check it, using host files, as Gary was mentioning, and there's another one, which is by blocking your internet connection.
And I'm going to go sudo nano
/
etc/hosts.
Yeah.
And this is what will open up. I had just checked this like a minute back, so it's not asking me for my password.
Yeah.
But otherwise it would. And what you want to do is have hashtag space custom, and then you're going to add the local host IP, and then
maps.googleapis.com
or any other API that you might want to block.
Yeah.
And that wikipedia.org. And once you do this, you want to hit Control and O together, and then hit Enter. And what this is going to do is basically block my APIs now.
And then you can open up your application. And what Google Maps usually does is it just gives a gray screen. So doesn't give you any error. It doesn't look very pretty in your application. Just gives you a gray screen. And what happens usually is there is an error in the Google Developer Chrome's console where it says Google is not defined. So all you need to do is add a condition that would, actually handle when Google is undefined. So when Google is undefined, show an error, render an image that says something, or, something else that, hey, sorry, our app is not functioning right now. Please come back and check later, or something like that. And you can check it with disabling your internet connection as well, I believe. I think that should work as well. So those are the ways to sort of check how your application is reacting when a failure occurs.
Then the first one we talk about is the map functionality. And a map representation of identified locations is provided, runs error-free, and is presented in a usable and responsive manner. We keep seeing this usable and responsive manner, which takes you back to the interface design. Start on a small screen device and go to a large screen device. You basically want to see those markers.
Yeah.
We need those markers to be clickable and change their styling when they're clicked on. My favorite one was, or I shouldn't say my favorite one, but the bobbing one is the most common one.
Yeah, the
that
bounce.
we've seen. You can change the color of the marker. It can be a subtle change. It doesn't have to go from red to black or anything. But we need to see some kind of a change.
Make sure that you're filtering your markers at the same time updating your list view as well. So that should be responsive. Like, you don't want all your markers to show up even when you're filtering the list or searching a specific, place in the list. That's not a very usable design of your application if you have to go through each of your markers to actually find the place you are looking for. So just make sure that your search functionality, the keyword, updates your list as well as your markers.
Vice versa would also be good that when you click on a marker, it somehow highlights the place that you have clicked on in your list view.
That's right.
So, all right. This is an easy one. The location details functionality. Functionality providing additional data about a location is provided, runs error-free, and is presented in a usable and responsive manner. So we really want you to get responsive design with this project, obviously. And we want to see some additional info provided about the location. You can choose how you want to implement it. The most common implementation is when you click on a marker, it opens an info window with something more about the place. It can be their phone number, phone number, Yelp reviews, address,
location details, anything.
Even if you give the and longitude, it's fine.
I know some people attach like links to YouTube videos or Instagram pictures and so on. That's going above and beyond. It's awesome, but start out small all the time and then go start enhancing your project. Is what I would say.
Even with the third-party API, implement Google Maps the way you would want it implemented first before you jump on and take on this big thing of adding another third-party API. The search functionality has a search function is provided, runs error-free, and is presented in a usable and responsive manner. That's, again, the search function is more like a filtering operation from your list. So if I have Anna and Annabelle, when I type Anna, I want to be able to see both Anna and Annabelle. And the moment I type that B, it's wonderful if that Anna goes away and I can see just Annabelle.
We actually don't give you guidelines on how smart your search is, but we want to see some kind of search, right? Just if you want to put a full keyword and search it, you can do it that way. If you want just by a single letter, you can do it that way. But we want to see that filtering is going on, and that, you know, that is going to in turn trigger your markers and your list to be updated is what we want to see get out of it. And we also want you to code in more than one place since we want you to be able to search and show that, hey, I have 10 places.
List with more than one element.
Exactly. Hey, I have 10 places, and I type this letter and one of them show up or 5 of them show up. So we definitely do want to test that functionality out. If you're going to be using only one place, it sort of makes it difficult for us to even like check if your functionality works fine. It's just, make sure that, you know, it returns multiple places.
Well, even if you have few places and I type something that I might not see in someone's list view, I usually just go with my name. If that doesn't show up, I can see that your list is functioning okay. You can definitely, if you want to go above and beyond, implement text completion.
Autocomplete. That's right.
Autocomplete. We've seen some of those projects and they're really fun to play around with. Keyboard shortcuts would be another one. The next part of the rubric is basically talking about the list view. A list view or some other variation of browsing with the content is provided, runs error-free, and is presented in a usable and responsive manner. You can choose to have a typical list view if you want, but it is in double quotes. So if you think of a creative way of representing all the locations that you have beyond the markers, please go ahead and do that. We would love to see that project. I think that's pretty easy to understand point. The next few ones are, again, you are going to be tested code quality. You have been getting code reviews now. So we have added that detail to our evaluations. So make sure your code is clean. You comment it. You don't have commented code left in your project. And I understand sometimes it's just nice to have, I had it working this way. But remember, you're using GitHub. So you have version controlling inbuilt, and you can go back and go forward with whatever that you are doing. You can host that thing on a completely different branch, because what we are looking for is on the master branch. And like production quality code tends to be on the master branch. And that is the reason why we want to check only our master branch. The last one is the Readme, something that you have been doing since project 1. And this is the second to last time that you'll be doing it in this nanodegree program. Make sure you tell us how to run your application. If you need us to ungrok it, have instructions for that. Most of you have been, or most of the projects that I have seen have just been hosting it somewhere on the public internet, and it's really nice to see those projects.
And don't forget build tools as well if you want to go above and beyond. You have learned a lot of useful techniques and optimization efforts in project 4. And you're going to have a ton of JavaScript, CSS code, I bet, in this application. So it's always important to make them render blocking, make sure that they're all minified and don't have extra spaces that could potentially make your storage as well to a higher, value. So just make sure that, all your code is optimized. If you can, of course, this is optional. I'm not like, pressing it on you guys to do it, but it's definitely a good practice, and you can sort of like remember, you can, if you want to sort of refresh your mind from project 4 and be like, I want to try using grunt or gulp again, in this project. And it seems like I have all this like JavaScript file that I can concatenate and minify and then use them all to host my page, and it will be more efficient and faster when I do that. Go ahead and do it. Add it in the README and just make sure that you send us a readable copy as well. Because we definitely want to be seeing how you've written your JavaScript code. And I know that a lot of people have been asking me, hey, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm stuck at this point where I have my Google Maps built in. I don't know how to go forward. I don't know how to make things work. So what I would say is we are looking for knockout only when you make changes to your list view, or only when you make changes to filtering your JSON array that you get back from an API. So Google Maps is a view model by itself. So you don't need to put that inside your view model class. I know that a lot of students have this question of, hey, I don't know where Google Maps goes exactly into the MVC pattern. So
don't
it's
worry
a view.
About Google Maps, basically.
Yeah, and you don't need to worry about using data bind on your marker objects or anything of that sort. All you need to worry about is whatever like ways that you manipulate this array of objects that you are going to show in your list item should be using observables and should be in your view model. And the same filtering or whatever mechanism you do and get the filtered list, make sure that it's always reflected in your Google Maps API. So make sure that your list view and your Google Maps API are in sync when they are rendering all the places. But you don't need to worry about integrating data bindings into a Google Map object. That is going to get complicated when you start out doing. I have not tried that personally, and I'm going to be open about it. So I don't know how well that would work or if it would work. So you don't need to worry about applying knockouts principles on your Google Maps. Just make sure that outside of it, whatever DOM element that you create outside of the Google Maps need to be updated dynamically during your runtime and need to use knockout. So definitely go with that approach in mind. And if you want, all you need to worry about is to set Google Maps aside and get data from third-party APIs and be able to render that data in list view using knockout. That should be your first objective, and then integrate it all together if it gets overwhelming.
And to start out with the Google Map, I would also say you implemented a Google Map in your project too.
Yes.
So going back and seeing what was done over there might be a good place to start.
Definitely. And you have like great documentation around it.
Yes. So go ahead, just read up on that. It's a great place to start, and then you can start with a map that's tiny and then work on making it bigger.
Yeah, exactly. More functionality added into it. And yeah, we do have like a lot of medium through which you can communicate with your peers and with your coaches. So feel free to leverage that as well.
I bet just the way we are happy about it, the student who submits also is happy about it.
And if you've come to project 5, it means it's a great achievement for you guys. It's you've learned a lot and you're here, and that's why you're at that point. So do not get frustrated. It can be overwhelming, but it's how you take it. It's going to be a lot of learning experience for you. It might be frustrating, but you're going to get a great satisfaction when you actually see these, up and running. And I'm sure that you guys can get there for sure.